Okay, should I be funny and do this review as a review that I can't remember what I was even reviewing? No, okay, not. This is a review and thoughts on There Is No Anti-Mimetics Division by Quantum. So, hello, my name is Zach, and I am mostly a science fiction and fantasy book review channel with sometimes delving into things like comics, manga, and a little of everything in between. And yes, this is squarely in the sci-fi, but maybe a little bit in the horror genre. And that is the new audiobook by Quantum, There Is No Anti-Mimetics Division, which is apparently a rewrite of a SCP Foundation sort of online fan fiction, but about the Anti-Mimetics Division. And really cool concept, really cool book, really weird. It takes a this is a thinker. This is not a action oriented, even though there's some action and horror, body horror going on here, but it is a book that really gets you thinking. So the core concept is this concept of anti-memes. And as they explain in sort of a Project Hail Mary style, where the narrator doesn't know all the information and is slowly having to learn it. And that works here because anti-memes, anti-mimetics is these creatures, bear with me, these creatures that basically eat memories and eat concepts of ideas. So it also felt a bit like Neil Stephenson's Anathem, which also deals with like ideatic space. You have to think about there's the third three-dimensional world, the fourth dimension of time, and then a fifth dimension of idea space, which as someone who read Stevenson's Anathem, which is a central concept of that book, that is here in Anti-Mimetics division, that there is an idea of like a fifth dimension of ideal space, ideatic space, and then this creature monster thing that they're sort of fighting against as an organization can basically feed on memories. And it's really cool because it's explained sort of like for fans of X-Files or Fringe, where there's sort of these agents that are defending the world from the things that we as the general population never see. So almost, yeah, like X-Files or Men in Black, sort of, that they're saving the world by containing these monsters, these mythological creatures, and in this case, anti-mimetics, these monsters that eat ideas and memories. There's some really cool examples of like the organization found a creature that eats the concept of bicycles, that different civilizations have developed the bicycle at different points of time until this creature comes along and eats the idea of the bicycle, and then they have to start over with no bicycle. But it's that kind of cool idea that the author plays with that almost also could explain things in our world from maybe a conspiracy tinfoil hat thing like Atlantis, that how are these maybe past civilizations sort of just deleted from human memory, and as of a memory wipe, to use another analogy from a manga or anime perspective, Attack on Titan, where the king can erase people's memories as on societal level. That's kind of what these anti-meme things are doing. And what if this is all the second time we've done this because civilizations have risen and fallen and they've just been deleted from our collective memory as a society? So really cool concept, and that concept is expanded into what happens if they start encroaching on our civilization and how do we fight back against it. So that is the purview of Quinn in the Anti-Mimetics division. So it's really cool. I don't want to spoil it because every time I read where Quinn will explain like how creatures developed anti-mimetic camouflage to hide in plain sight, basically really cool. It really felt like I was on for the ride. It all sort of clicked and made sense in an in-world scenario of, yeah, okay, I could see that happening, and we just don't know about it because it's eating the idea of even knowing about it. And so it kind of works in its own weird way. And then the real kicker for me, what I sort of didn't enjoy, or not really didn't, but didn't appreciate, I guess you could say, was about the two-thirds part. The narrative really switches, and we go from fighting the anti-mimetic creature to experiencing the fallout of the anti-mimetic battle that's going on, and it's a very complex shift, and you have to really pay attention to what's happening and why it's happening. So I'm going to be very vague. That's like a maybe a light spoiler as the what is going on, but you really have to pay attention to these like the final third of the book and how it relates to the first two thirds and what is the author is going on with the narrative structure. So it's actually once I sort of read a bit, once I finished the book and then read what did to make sense of what I just read, then it clicked and it went from like, okay, I finished the book. It was probably a solid 4 out of 5 for me when I read it. But then when I read the explanation to kind of piece together a little bit more that I probably missed with the final third, yeah, it was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, now I get it. Okay, that makes sense. So it's not something you need to spoil yourself and read ahead of time, but I think if I would read it a little bit closer, that the switch in what was happening where I thought I grasped it, but then once I kind of reached the end, you sort of have an idea of what happened, and then read a little, maybe spoilers for me. Maybe I needed a little bit of explanation. Then it clicked, and yeah, I think it's a solid, like a 4.5 out of 5. Not really like a perfect book, but it definitely kept me engaged. It's not super long, so it's a nice self-contained story, which I do appreciate compared to reading some of these epic fantasy stories that are like 20, 30 hours of audiobook. It packages up, it introduces us to the characters, to the concept. We learn what's going on. We kind of understand what they're trying to battle, something that they can't think about. Complex puzzle is what the characters are trying to solve. So they're trying to kind of use logic and MacGyvering. So if you like puzzle series and kind of figuring out how to get your way out of things. So for fans of, yes, Project Hail Mary, I think you'll really enjoy this. But then it also leans into a bit of almost cosmic horror because it's sort of crazy what happens and how we think about could this, would this, is this actually happening in the real world? And we just don't know about it because it's just eating our memories. So it's, yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think you'll also, for maybe fans of horror, would enjoy this from a sci-fi kind of horror perspective. I think it was a really great read, really engaging, and one of the more interesting books I read this year in 2025. The audio production also has it has the redactions in audio, which is a really fun experience. I'm sure on the text page it just has sort of like the blackout redacted sections, but in the audio it plays like scrambled audio sounds, and you know that we're getting just bits and pieces of information as just the way the writing is, and it's sort of reading from the files of the Anti-Mimetics division. But really cool, really fun. Had a great time reading it, and I see why it was on like Audible's list of best listens of the year. 100% agree. I think you should check out There Is No Anti-Mimetics Division by Quantum. Had a great time, and I think you will too. So this is a very light spoiler and general review and thoughts of There Is No Anti-Mimetics Division. Thanks for watching and have a great day. And hopefully you remember this video and remember to click and watch more. So have a good one. See ya.